Welcome back to Through Threads, your home for the most chilling mysteries and stories that keep you awake at night. Today's story is one you'll never forget. Let's begin. It was the winter of 1998 in a small countryside town in Yorkshire, England. The air was cold. The nights were longer than usual, and people often said strange things happened in that part of the village. In the middle of it stood an abandoned railway station, closed since the 1950s. Nobody dared to go near it, except Daniel, a curious 19-year-old student who had recently moved into town. Daniel always loved history, and the railway fascinated him. Locals whispered that trains used to vanish there, and some passengers were never found. But Daniel believed those were just old folk tales. One evening, with his flashlight and notebook, he decided to explore. The station was silent, covered in ivy, with broken windows and dust thick enough to tell decades of stories. As Daniel walked through the waiting room, his flashlight flickered, almost like the building itself didn't want him there. On the wall, he noticed something odd, a timetable that showed a train scheduled for 10:37 p.m., January 12, 1998. The problem? That was the very night Daniel was standing there, and it was already 10:20. His heart raced. He thought it was some kind of prank. But at exactly 10:37, he heard the rumble of a train approaching. The ground shook lightly under his feet, and headlights beamed down the abandoned tracks. Except there were no tracks anymore. They had been ripped out years ago. Frozen in disbelief, Daniel watched as an old steam train rolled into the platform, perfectly solid yet strangely silent. Inside the windows, he saw passengers dressed in 1940s clothing, staring blankly ahead, not moving, not speaking. No one blinked. The door slid open, creaking. A uniformed conductor stepped out, his face pale and expressionless. He looked directly at Daniel and said in a low voice, "Your ticket, please." Daniel stumbled backward, shaking his head. The conductor's eyes didn't move. He simply repeated, "Your ticket is overdue." The passengers inside slowly turned their heads toward him in perfect unison, their faces still blank, their eyes hollow. Terrified, Daniel dropped his notebook and ran out of the station, not daring to look back. When he finally reached the village pub, out of breath, the old men sitting there stared at him. One of them quietly said, "So, you've seen it too." The next morning, Daniel returned to the station with his friends to prove what he saw. But the timetable on the wall was gone. His notebook had vanished, and the station looked more abandoned than ever. To this day, Daniel swears he heard the train, saw the passengers, and felt the ground tremble. And the locals? They just say, "The 10:37 still runs, but not for the living."